There's a weight that sin leaves behind, not just guilt, but distance. A heaviness in the soul that whispers, "You've gone too far this time." And if you sit in that silence long enough, shame starts to feel like truth, like your failure is your future, like you're too far from grace to ever come back. But redemption doesn't begin with you fixing it. It begins with Jesus finding you in it. He doesn't wait for you to clean up first. He meets you right in the mess, right in the addiction, the betrayal, the hidden habits, the places you swore you'd never go again. And instead of condemnation, he offers a cross. Because the cross didn't come for the polished, it came for the broken, for the one who knows they can't save themselves. And in that surrender, not striving, is where redemption begins. You don't earn your way back. You receive your way back. And the door is always open. This is the beauty of grace. It doesn't deny sin. It defeats it. Not by ignoring what you've done, but by covering it with what he already did. And when you trust that, you don't just get forgiveness, you get freedom. Redemption isn't behavior management. It's a heart transplant. It's not God saying, "Try harder," but God saying, "Come closer." And when you do, something starts shifting. Slowly, quietly. Not because you've finally become strong, but because you finally stopped pretending to be. You see, sin doesn't just stain your record. It warps your identity. It convinces you that you are your mistake. That failure is your name now. But Jesus didn't come to improve your reputation. He came to give you a new name, a new nature, a new way to live that isn't built on willpower, but on rescue. And yes, the process is messy. You'll still feel the pull of your past. The habits won't disappear overnight. But the difference is now, you're not fighting alone. Now you're not running from God. You're running with him. And every stumble becomes a step closer, not a step backward. This is what redemption through Christ looks like. Not perfection, but persistence. Not denial of sin, but deliverance from its grip. It's falling and choosing to get up with grace instead of guilt. The enemy's greatest weapon isn't the sin itself. It's the shame that follows. That haunting voice that says, "You'll never change. Why even try?" But grace speaks louder. Grace says, "I see it all, and I still want you." That's the scandal of the gospel. Full exposure, full forgiveness. Jesus didn't die to modify your habits. He died to resurrect your soul, to pull you out of the grave you dug with your own hands and call you alive. And that life isn't fragile, it's firm. It doesn't depend on your performance. It's rooted in his finished work. So stop running from your past. Let it be buried. Let the old version of you stay in the grave. Because when Christ rose, he didn't just leave death behind. He left every label, every lie, every chain that ever held you. And now, because of him, you can too. This is the invitation. Not to try harder, but to trust deeper. To believe that what he did is stronger than what you did. That his mercy outweighs your mistake. And that there's more ahead of you than behind you. Redemption isn't a second chance. It's a whole new start. It's not God saying, "Try again," but God saying, "I've made a way." And that way is Jesus. Not just for your worst moments, but for every moment. Because once you've been redeemed, even your past starts to serve a purpose. What once brought shame now becomes a testimony. What once broke you now builds compassion. And what once felt like the end becomes the beginning of something eternal. That's the mystery of grace. It turns graves into gardens, regrets into revelations. You don't have to be defined by what you did. You're now defined by what he did. And that means you're free. Not just to start over, but to start new. Not just forgiven, reborn. And that new identity, it's not fragile, it's founded. If this reminded you that your past doesn't disqualify your future, subscribe and turn on the bell, not for content, but for constant reminders that Christ already paid the price for your new beginning. Redemption through Christ doesn't erase your story, it reclaims it. Every broken piece becomes part of a bigger picture. Every wrong turn, every fall, every failure, they no longer define you, but they refine you. God doesn't waste your wounds, He rewrites them. But freedom doesn't always feel instant. Sometimes you still hear the echoes, still feel the guilt, still slip back into old habits. And that's where many people stop, thinking grace had a limit. But grace doesn't run out. It runs after you, even when you fall again, even when you feel unworthy. Redemption is not a one-time moment. It's a new way to live. You don't walk alone anymore. The Spirit inside you now fights battles you used to lose. He convicts, but never condemns. He draws you close, not out of fear, but out of love. And that love? It doesn't flinch at your mess. It walks with you through it, reminding you, this isn't who you are anymore. You are no longer bound by your worst day. You are no longer labeled by your past. You are redeemed. And every time you choose grace instead of guilt, every time you return instead of run, you're living proof that redemption still works. You were never meant to carry the weight of your sin. That's why it crushed you. That's why it drained your joy, clouded your vision, and whispered lies about your worth. But Jesus didn't just take your place. He took your burden. Every shame-filled memory, every secret failure, every silent regret. It's not yours to carry anymore. This is the scandal of redemption. He paid in full so you don't have to live in pieces. You don't owe penance. You don't earn your way back. You receive what's already been secured. Forgiveness that covers, heals, and restores. Not just your past, but your identity. And when you start to believe that, something changes. You stop hiding. You stop pretending. You start walking lighter. Not because you're perfect, but because you're free. And freedom doesn't mean you never fall. It means you know where to fall when you do. Back into grace. Back into truth. Back into the arms of a Savior who never gave up on you, even when you gave up on yourself. There's a quiet power in knowing you're redeemed, not because of what you feel, but because of what He finished. You don't have to chase forgiveness anymore. You stand in it. You don't have to keep proving you've changed. You walk like someone who's already been made new. And yes, the enemy will still whisper. He'll try to drag you back into shame. He'll remind you of what you did, hoping you'll forget who you've become. But every time you open your mouth and speak the name of Jesus, every time you respond with truth instead of hiding, you're fighting back. Not with force, but with freedom. Because redemption doesn't just set you free, it teaches you how to live free. To say no when sin knocks again. To forgive yourself when old thoughts return. To extend grace to others because you know how much it cost Him to give it to you. You're no longer a prisoner trying to escape. You're a son, a daughter, walking out of an open cell. Not in shame, but in confidence. Not in fear, but in faith. And every step you take is proof. The old is gone, the new has come. Redemption doesn't mean you forget who you were. It means you finally remember who you were always meant to be. Loved, chosen, covered. Not because you earned it, but because He declared it. That's the miracle of grace. It doesn't just pull you out of sin, it calls you into purpose. You're not a mistake waiting to be fixed. You're a masterpiece already reclaimed. And that reclaiming changes how you live. You stop living for approval. You stop trying to outrun your past. Instead, you walk like someone who's been rescued, with humility, with gratitude, with quiet strength. This is what it means to overcome sin, not to never fall, but to never stay fallen, to rise with mercy under your feet and a future in your hands. And the more you walk in that truth, the less power your past has over you, and the more light you carry into the lives of others. You are proof that grace still works, that the cross wasn't just an event, it's an invitation. And redemption, it's not just possible, it's already yours. And now ask yourself this: if you really believed you've been fully redeemed, how boldly would you walk into your next chapter?